throughout your career and what you now see, are you able to sort of shed light on the patterns of money laundering, terrorist financing activity that you tend to see, or the most common sort of industries where this is arising, or types of arrangements that you see?
In each of our annual reports, we have a section where we publish, or we issue some sanitized cases that have been analyzed and processed during that reporting period. And so we include a cross section of cases, predominantly fraud. Fraud's the number one predicate reported. So number one's always a sort of a general category of suspicious activity. So that'll include things like transaction outside of the client's profile, inadequate or inaccurate information being provided, transactions that lack economic purpose, unusual circumstances, and there's two other categories. So outside of that general sort of, something's off, but there isn't a specific predicate identified. And then there's fraud, and fraud is the number one predicate. I look back, I think over the last 5 years, it's the number one predicate. As a result, what we've done is, in our annual report, we actually do a section on fraud and sort of highlight the different types of frauds we're seeing.
You mentioned there, and just again to sort of change the focus of our discussion slightly and getting towards the end, and I've covered a lot, but you mentioned the sanctions point again and dealing with sanctioned entities. I know that you are part of Operation Hector, which I understand was formed to coordinate, identify and to make policy amendments in relation to the implementation of sanctions, particularly the Ukraine-Russian sanctions. Are you able to shed a little bit of light just on what Operation Hector is and your sort of role in that, and how Cayman's worked there?
Operation Hector was formed in March 2002. I remember it distinctly. I think I'd just gotten back from vacation, and it was one of the few times that my phone rang on a Sunday afternoon, and it was the Honourable Attorney General saying, "Hey, I know you're back in office tomorrow. Well, boss is boss. I have a number of meetings I need you to attend with me." So I went to these meetings, and it was right after the invasion, and everyone was sort of like, "What do we do?" Blah, 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 So, because it had the word sanctions in it, everyone was like, "Well, this is an FRA matter." So I was like, "Well, actually, that has nothing to do with financial sanctions, but sure, we can provide guidance as needed." Credit needs to be given where credit is due. I think a couple of days later, the Cabinet Secretary, Samuel Rose, came to see me, and CabSec said, "Hey, I think we need to form a Russia Sanctions Task Force. I need you to chair it. Will you do that?" I said, "Sure." CabSec and his team then went to the then Governor, the then Premier, and the still Honourable Attorney General, and Hector was set up, or we had sign off for it, and then Hector met the next day for the first time. As you said, it's predominantly to get what we consider the relevant stakeholders around the table, so that there's a coordinated approach and that people can offer their area of expertise, so that there's collective knowledge. So I'm not a shipping specialist, or representative from the Maritime Authority adds great value, as does every representative. So on Hector, the FRA is obviously represented. I'm chair. The Cabinet Office is the secretariat for Operation Hector. They provide incredible logistical and administrative support. The Office of the Governor sits on it. We have representatives of the Governor. The Governor is the competent authority for sanctions. The Governor can then delegate certain powers and functions, which she has under Russia, as well as previously under the FATF regimes. Portfolio of Legal Affairs, Ministry of Financial Services and Commerce, SEMA, Maritime Authority of the Cayman Islands, Civil Aviation Authority, Cayman Islands Bureau of Financial Investigations, Customs Border Control, General Registry, and Lands and Survey. So we selected those because we felt all of those entities could have touch points to assets that might be owned or controlled by a designated person. So we met for the first time, I think, on March 16th. Initially, we were meeting weekly, then we went to every 2 weeks, and then to monthly. So we still meet monthly. We had an Operation Hector meeting on Tuesday. So we've issued a number of press statements, so you can find them online. I'd be happy to send you the links if you want to circulate them or post them somewhere. So I think most recently, so I mean, in some of the key statistics are the number of compliance reporting forms reporting frozen assets. So I think the latest, we issued a press release in November that gave sort of the June 30th numbers. Back then, it was over 1,300 compliance reporting forms since March 2022 to present, well, till June 30th.
Right.
Reporting over $8 billion US frozen, I think 230 million euro, just under 300,000 pounds. And so we every month when we meet, there's an update on those numbers. Kim France, the sanctions coordinator, she's processing license applications. So, we give updates on what's happening there, developments that we hear, that we know of out of the UK. So, the FCDO, OFSI, Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office of Financial Sanctions Implementation. We always have a tendency of using acronyms, and we think everyone will understand them. We have a monthly sanctions catch-up call. FCDO, OFSI, all the overseas territories, all the Crown dependencies. So we have a catch-up call every month. During that call, we'll usually get an update on things that are, developments in the UK. Everyone else has an opportunity to discuss or raise things that they're seeing. Next week, there's the annual Sanctions Forum, again, hosted by the FCDO and OFSI, and representatives from all the OTs and CDs. So there's been a real commitment by the UK, its territories and dependencies, to ensure Russia sanctions are implemented effectively. Other key highlights for us, the governor has deregistered two vessels under the Russia sanctions regime by directive, directing Macy to deregister them. Macy's also deregistered a number of vessels who couldn't meet the requirements under the Merchant Shipping Act. Similarly, civil aviation has deregistered a number of planes that were registered with them that again couldn't satisfy their registration requirements. No directives from the governor in that space regarding aircraft, but obviously we're actively monitoring, or each agency has that active involvement in ensuring they're discharging their obligations under the Russia sanctions regime, which is a very complex regime. All other regimes, in my view, pale in comparison to it in terms of...
It's fairly all-encompassing, yeah, it is. So it sounds like Cayman is really playing its part in helping enforce that global...
We are, Operation Hector is recognized as sort of... we're recognized as being a leader in establishing a task force like that.
Right, okay. So that's welcome news. It's good. It's good to hear that we're doing our part.
When you introduced me and said I got an OBE, part of the reason I got my OBE was for the implementation of UK sanctions. So I think it's pretty well known that Cayman has stepped up. I've gotten quite a bit of credit, but it's truly a team effort, and we continue to be committed to that. One of the things we did last year was a key highlight. Again, there's a great press release and videos on it. The UK, in support of the OTs and I think CDs, but I can certainly speak to it from the OTs' point of view. They had gotten funding for economic deterrence initiatives to fight illicit finance, and we were asked to submit proposals. So, in consultation with the governor's office, we put forward a proposal to do a tabletop exercise, and it was accepted. And we were the first territory that had happened in. So I think back in January or February last year, a tabletop exercise. We had the FCDO representative down, and we had professional facilitators who came down, and we sat down for 2 very intensive days and essentially did a number of scenarios. We did some general overview of sanctions, and then we got into these scenarios, and not financial sanction scenarios. So things like yachts coming into the harbor, planes landing at Owen Roberts International Airport, so forth and so on. How would we respond? As a result of that exercise, the tabletop, or the TTX, we call it, the TTX report, highlighted some areas that we could do better in. And so we've continued to progress that work, and actually we're in the middle of doing some stakeholder mapping, because there's more entities than Operation Hectors that could have touch points. So as soon as you have a vessel implication, you have Port Authority, you have the Coast Guard, you have CBC, so there's a number of agencies. So we're in the process of going through a number of scenarios, identifying specific points of contact for a broad cross-section of agencies that, should this happen, we're not scrambling and going crazy. We have some plan, and I think that's put us in great stead. And then we also did 2 educational videos as a result of the tabletop exercise, sort of sanctions is everyone's business. So I'm quite proud of that. I'm not normally the media guy, and I don't like to do podcasts and speak to the media type thing, but we've done some press releases, and it really does highlight the good work that's come out of Operation Victor.
It definitely, fully appreciate your time. So just, in closing, what message would you like to leave with our listeners?
Sure. I think what I'd say is the FRA is a key agency in the jurisdiction in combating money laundering, terrorist financing, proliferation financing. And the vast majority of our work is as a result of suspicious activity reports filed with us and compliance reporting forms, but I'll stick with the SAR reporting initially. And we rely heavily on reporting entities to submit high quality SARs. You can look at the guidance we've issued to help you do that. So we really do appreciate the collaborative and cooperative relationships we have with reporting entities. I just want to stress how important they are. SARs are the primary source of financial intelligence in the Cayman Islands. There's obviously others, but it may sound a bit biased since it's the FRA, but quite honestly, we view it as a partnership with reporting entities, and without that, I don't think we'd be as effective in discharging our functions and playing our role in making sure the jurisdiction continues to grow from strength to strength with combating illicit finance, money laundering, terrorist financing, proliferation financing.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a very enlightening discussion. Really appreciate your time. There's a lot of work you're doing. Appreciate you taking time out of that important work to speak with us today. But thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, Patrick. It's a pleasure. Glad to have been able to highlight some of the work we do.